Dori, Bennett, Scott Laigo. The regular season is over. It's incredible to think that the college football season, the regular season, has come to an end. And then obviously there's still teams that are going on, but it seems long and now it seems real short. It's one of those things. Dori, Scott, once again, how are you, Scott? You go first, please. Before we started this show, you shared some news with us. So why don't you share the news with everyone else?
Well, as everybody knows, on my little side gig I do, I try to help kids get into college. And a young man from Roosevelt High School, their quarterback, Connor Ridenour, who Miss Teacher here taught years ago, got a verbal commitment tonight with University of Puget Sound down in the Loggers, down in Tacoma. Great school for him, great choice, going to do a great deal. He wants to be a medical, wants to be a doctor down the road. Just couldn't be happier for him. And, really, it's not the glamour they see in 2 weeks or a week from now from the signing day and CBS and announcements and all that stuff. But what a great deal for a great kid and a local who's worked his rear end off and deservingly so. So it's really a fun deal. And it's really what the end goal of what SAA Advocates is all about. So, Dori?
I was super excited, Connor, when you announced it. I said, Connor, that's my dude. Bud, huge congratulations to Connor. And he is the epitome of a student athlete, And he's the kind of young man that truly deserve the opportunity to continue their career, their football and their academics at an institution of higher learning. I could not be more excited for Connor. He was actually a sixth grader in my Math 8 class. So early on, working 2 grade levels above, and a wonderful family. He has a twin brother and sisters that are still at Eckstein, and just a great family. So I'm super excited for Connor, and I can't wait to congratulate him.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, this is what it's all about. And like you said, student athletes are at all levels, right? And sometimes, especially when we talk, college and college sports, and we kind of we think about the upper level schools or the D1 schools, but it doesn't matter, right? D1, D2, D3, whatever it is, you're student first and the athlete second. And the fact that you could get in school and start your career and think about your future is just a wonderful thing. And if you could keep playing a sport that you love, the longer you can, great, because most of us can't or won't, especially with life and your day-to-day activities, won't play football and won't play basketball and won't play baseball and so on and so forth. Maybe you're lucky you play in a rec league, but these are the best days of your life. There's things that especially you tell high school kids, this is the best time. This might be the most difficult time because of your age, right? And all the challenges that you have, but really this is the best time because you'll never get back your high school experience and you'll never get back that college experience. So hats off to the Ridenour family. And we want to wish everyone the best and everyone else like Connor that's out there and getting ready to make big decisions. As Scott mentioned, in a couple of weeks, we'll have the big signing day and all this other stuff. But all these kids and these families are making great decisions for their future. And we just want to say hats off to all of them. All right. College football's over. Regular season's over. Dori, we're going to start with you. I wanted to mention, I said, thoughts on the regular season. What stood out for you the most, whether it's one or two things, really what stood out for you the most, Dori?
I think that what stood out for me the most is the impact the transfer portal had on multiple teams in multiple conferences. And I think what it did is it brought the talent levels closer and games were tighter and more competitive. And I think in a 1 year, no other question about it for me, the transfer portal had the biggest impact on college football this season.
I'm going to ask you both this question. So, Dori, since this is your answer, please answer first. We had this negative connotation about the transfer portal for so many years. kids are selfish, kids this, kids that. Do you think whether it's fans, we'll stick with fans, not to make it too complicated. Do you think fans after this year will think of the transfer portal differently?
I don't. And because I think that people are still so tightly attached to their university, either they're an alma mater or they are a huge donor, or it's the university program that they choose to follow because they had someone play there. I think there's still that whole piece about being loyal to your school that is pervasive for the majority of the fans, because if you think about who buys season tickets, it's not the students that are currently they're not the big donors, right? That this generation of people that are still the big donors are traditionalists. And I don't know that they really see the transfer portal as a positive piece for NCAA football, for Pac-12. I mean, excuse me, for Division I football. I don't think they see it yet.
Scott, what are your thoughts on that? Before you tell me, what do you think stood out for you the most this regular season?
Well, I know one thing, talking about what Dori was talking about, how teams were able to transform themselves. I think some other coaches in this country, i.e. a guy named Dabo down at Clemson, he's going to change his when it comes to transfer portal. I think a few guys are going to really dabble. I think there's some really wise things. I mean, obviously I'm entwined with the, Penn State program, and they made very small selection, but the defensive end from Temple was a huge addition to their program this year. So I think you can be selective and do the things and keep your core and keep your culture, but it's a game changer. And I think it's a big difference in how you can do things, and how it's perceived will change, to what Dori's point is. But I do think that you can make a big additions and changes in your program. So it's a really good thing when it's done right. And especially when we watch the coaching carousel this year, I think it's shows it even more why it's important for these kids.
And what stood out for you this season?
Well,
anything besides the transfer portal?
Two things that stood out for me. We played a whole season.
Yeah.
And we played in front of fans. Yeah, yes. We played in front of fans. So that was big. And I think kind of the next segment to what we're probably going to talk about, the college football playoff, a group of 5 made it in. So we've kicked down that door. We've allowed it to happen. It's made it happen this year. I know we will talk about it down here in a little bit, but the, expansion, but at least that door was kicked down. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think right now Alabama is a 14-point favorite going into the game. So I hope it, plays it closer than what the Vegas guys think it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great that the season happened. Everybody played, and that we made it happen in front of fans. So it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, we had new people come to the club. It wasn't the same VIP. I mean, you look at the Big 12. The Big 12 championship had no Oklahoma and no Texas. We saw people in the top 25. Teams in the top 25 that we hadn't seen before. Or at least it's been a long time. And that was something that really kind of stood out, and teams that bounce back. We think about, even Michigan State, right? I mean, they were just really, really bad, especially the last 2 years. Even last year, they were bad, but they had some good wins, but still kind of making that comeback. But seeing fresh faces, and I think that's something that we needed to see. It was, if you're an Alabama fan, Georgia fan, Clemson fan, Ohio State fan, you don't want to hear from me, right? You don't want to hear that I thought it was getting a little stale seeing the same teams. You don't want to hear from me. You might as well hit the mute, right? But for the casual fan, it's nice. It's nice to see Pitt. It's nice to see Pitt back in the mix. So those are the things that stood out for me. And I thought it was a fantastic season overall. I wish there would have been more players, but we'll speak about that right now. Hey, the playoffs are set. Scott, You know, did they get it right? Did they get the top four right? What are your thoughts on the playoffs when you look at it as a whole?
Absolutely. I mean, they couldn't have. I mean, the way the system works right now. I mean, Bama and Georgia decided on the field last week in this SEC championship. You know, I wouldn't ever bet against Nick Saban and the Bama crew because they definitely showed their 5 and 4 stars, and when they put a plan together, they're a pretty impressive crew. So, you know, and like you said, it's nice to see a Michigan in there. Harbaugh definitely rolled some dice. He put it on himself this year. He got past the Ohio State juggernaut. He won the conference. He's going to play. You know, I think the Georgia Michigan game is going to be very interesting from a lot of coaching points from that. You know, can their run game do what they think and make one-dimensional Stetson Bennett from Georgia? And, you know, and the big party guy in the group, Cincinnati, here we go. We're gonna find out if the group of 5 guys can compete with the big boys. So it's gonna be good, you know, and I think it's just good to see change in that top group and motivate and get some other people thinking about it. So I think it's good. And I think they got it right for the system that we work with then. Dori?
Oh, I would have loved to have seen it just
Chaos.
yeah, I wanted chaos.
Alabama loses.
And I wanted the 4 to be I want to see Michigan and Cincinnati in the championship. And I truly wanted to see them in the championship. And I hope Alabama plays like they did the first time they played Georgia. And Cincinnati absolutely rolls on Roll Tide. I really do. So let's make it a non-SEC championship versus an all SEC championship, and have to see those 2 teams play again. I was listening to a couple of shows earlier, and they said that they felt that the committee got it right, and that there was no conspiracy theory because the last time the SEC teams that played in the SEC championship met in the national championship, it was the lowest rated ever for a national championship game. So those people that have a conspiracy theory, I don't know that I buy any of it. I would have loved 100%. So I want to see the Roll Tide roll on down the road and not be there. I want Georgia not to be there, even though I think Stetson Bennett is, like, I love that kid because he's been a long shot in the SEC.
Yeah.
Since he walked onto campus. So, but let's give it, man. Luke Fickell, dude is a rock star. I still want him at Washington. So that's how I feel about it.
Hey, listen, why not? You know, fire somebody else and pay them to leave again. So we'll see what happens there. Hey, a quick, you know, hypothetical question, right? Oklahoma State beats Baylor. Do they leapfrog Cincinnati?
What? No. No.
No.
No. No.
I'm in theory, I'm with you, Dori. I think that it would have gotten really interesting in that room. Unfortunately, I mean, and that's just my feelings about it. Now, will they have the gumption and the? I think Cincinnati deserved it. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is I think that they would have gotten really interesting in that room, and I think they would have had a really different discussion point. But I also think that if Georgia would have beaten Alabama, Alabama would have been out. And if they would have put them in with the 2 losses, then I think they would have had a real conspiracy theory and it would have been really pissed me off. And I think that's really wrong, especially when Ohio State's out with two losses. But unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, I hope to think what you're right, but I really, I get a gut feeling that it could have gotten really dicey in that room to see an Oklahoma State jump over the top. But here nor there, it doesn't really matter because since he's in, so it really, you know. But it would have been nice to have been in that room to listen to that whole deal.
Little hole in the wall.
And
Yeah.
how about the success of the Luke Fickle tree already, right? The success of the Luke Fickle tree already. Man, he has to be, I don't know, Cincinnati's probably, hopefully they're doing everything they can to keep him. But that's an also exciting piece, right? That here's a program that has been scratching to get into the top 4, right? And the year they do, the first person that gets hired for Notre Dame is right. I mean, he's more than just a branch on the tree. He's part of the roots of that Cincinnati program. And that's Marcus Freeman. So I think that shows a lot about the Cincinnati program.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the coaching in a minute here. I want to just have a little fun. I'm gonna share my screen, and for anyone not watching this on YouTube, we'll kind of we'll say what the teams are. And what we're looking at right now is from college football playoff edits, and they put together a 12-team playoff. And I believe is Joel Klatt's 12-team playoff bracket. So we're just going to have a little bit of fun. We'll go from left to left, and then we'll go to the right side. So we'll go in the first round with these 12 teams. They have a matchup of 9 versus 8. And so that would be Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Dori, we'll go, you'll answer, then Scott, and we'll keep it going in that order. Who wins that game, Ohio State or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame, those players are going to play hard for their new coach.
Scott?
I would go Ohio State.
Okay, so we got Ohio State and Notre Dame. They would go now to meet Alabama. The way this bracket is set up, Alabama, the 4 teams, Alabama, Michigan, Cincinnati, and Baylor would have been ranked 4 here. They would have had bye weeks. So go on down to the next bracket. It would have been Utah versus Michigan State. Utah ranked number 5, Michigan State number 12. Dori?
I'm going with Utah State. I don't know that with Utah. I don't know that anybody wants to play Utah right now. They are one of the hottest teams with a passion to play that's bigger than the team.
Ditto. I think Utah would roll that game. I really do. They're playing very, very well.
I agree. I go Utah, and just jump to back up because I didn't mention anything before. It would be, I would normally go with Ohio State, but I would like to see how these kids play for the new coach. So I would lean a little bit toward Notre Dame, but I think that would be a tremendous matchup. They have it as the highest seed, being the home team. So that game would be at South Bend. All right, so we'll go to the other side of the bracket. They've got Ole Miss in the 10th seed versus Georgia. What do you think? Who would win that game there? Dori?
I'm going with Georgia. Stetson Bennett, you my dude. Come on now. And I can't ever support a Lane Kiffin team. So I'm Georgia.
Scott?
Well, as Coach Corso says on game day, closer than the experts think, but I think Georgia would win. But I think it'd be a little bit of a shootout with Lane's offense. But I don't think they have any defense at Ole Miss, so I think that Georgia would get that win.
If Corral's healthy, I like Ole Miss to upset Georgia in that game, but he has to be 100% healthy. He is a dynamic player, and he can do things when things break down. He could throw for 300 yards and rush for 100. So it would be fascinating. Now, on the other side, if they can't stop Georgia, and that's what I'm thinking, that Ole Miss could outscore Georgia, because I don't have as much faith in that Georgia offense. But if Georgia puts up some points, I don't see Ole Miss putting up 34. It's more closer to 24. I just don't know if Georgia will score that much. Anyway, in the next bracket, they've got Pitt taking on Oklahoma State. And these rankings are a little bit off. This is something that Joel Klatt put together where he thought that, that the rankings should have been at the end of the season. Dori, Pitt versus Oklahoma State. Who do you have there?
Pitt, Kenny Pickett, come on, that's my guy. And I think it will be close because both offenses have pretty strong quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett, You won me over with the fake slide and running for a touchdown. So let's go Kenny Pickett and Pitt.
Scott?
Yeah, I would probably go Pitt in this situation, even though I like the Oklahoma State defense. Their defensive coordinator actually just left and is at Ohio State now. So that would make a little bit of difference in that game. And I think Oklahoma State's offense kind of showed themselves, unfortunately, in the championship against Baylor. And so didn't really make things happen. So I'd go Pitt there.
All right. I'm going to take Oklahoma State because that kid will never, ever slide again, because at this point, every defense that plays against him will go at him. And if he slides, then they'll jump over him. I think when you do stuff like that, you put yourself in danger, whether it was on purpose or not, but you put a bullseye right on the square on your chest. And defenses do not like that. I mean, he embarrassed the defense by doing that, and that will never happen again. And I could see that getting a little bit ugly. Anyway, so we got do we have anybody, whether it's Ohio State or Notre Dame, playing Alabama in the semifinal round? Do we have any upsets there? Dori?
I'm going to stay with the long shot and stick with an upset. In March Madness, I always pick a lot of upsets, and I'm sticking with it in my gut. Let's go. And the last time I rooted for Notre Dame on anything, Dan Devine was the coach, and Danny Kelleher from Ellensburg, Washington was the running back. So just so you know, for me to root for Notre Dame, it's 100% because of their coach, their new coach.
Scotty?
Unfortunately, I think the cream of the crop would get in that situation, and I think that Alabama would beat Ohio State, in my pick.
There it is. All right. I listened. You never know. The true story. We did a March Madness pool, and I think I told Dori this. I filled out my brackets, and then I said, "Honey," I told my wife. I said, "Why don't you fill out the brackets?" She said, "I don't know any of these teams." Right? I said, doesn't matter. Just filling them out for fun, right? We're throwing, it was $25 a bracket. We were just having fun. So we went one by one, and she said, "What are the colors of the teams? What are the colors of the teams?" And Scott, I swear to you, this is 100% true. There was about 175, 180 people in that pool. This was a huge pool. We were doing Madison Square Garden, Fox Sports, and a bunch of people. She won the whole damn thing by picking the jersey colors depending on the matchups. So if we go on that route, Dori's advancing. Hey, Utah Baylor semifinal.
Yep.
Who you got? We'll pick up the pace here. Dori, Utah Baylor.
Utah. They're hot. I'm going with Utah.
Yeah, I'd go Utah there too.
Yeah, it's 3 in a row, so they're gonna lose. All right, we've got Georgia, Michigan.
Ooh.
What do you got?
Man, I just think Michigan is another team that's really hot right now. And with their offense, I just think that Michigan's offense.
This is actually the matchup also. This is the real matchup too.
I know. And I think Michigan's offense, I think Michigan's defense is better than Georgia's offense. And so that's why I think Michigan's going to win.
Scott, can Georgia stop Michigan's running game? Who do you got?
Well, they got the guys. Can they do it for 4 quarters and be in the telephone booth for 4 quarters? And if they don't address I know it's Dori's guys, Stetson Bennett. If they don't make a change, maybe with Daniels, then I would lean with Michigan. But I think that Georgia's got to really do some self-reflection, and I think that they will. And so I think that Georgia would pull off, because I think maybe they're going to make a quarterback change. So I would take Georgia there.
All right. I think I need to know where this game is being played, right? I think that I want to know, are we getting the snow? Are we getting the wind? Are we in a dome? Are we in Texas inside the dome? So I think some of that stuff matters. So, but we don't have that information in front of us. Hey, I'm just going to root for Harbaugh. I think it'd be great. And then I would just love to hear, everyone calling into the radio stations saying that the coach has got to go for Georgia because he can't win the big one. So I like drama, so I'm going with that one.
And can I put one more thing why I want Michigan?
Yeah.
Because Aiden Hutchinson is a long shot for the Heisman, and the first time a true defensive player, has been nominated and is going to New York. So I think Aiden Hutchinson will be the difference maker in that game, and Michigan wins.
All right. Well, there we go. All right. We've got Cincinnati, and I believe both of you picked Pitt, right?
Yep.
Dori, go ahead.
Cincy, that's my dude.
Got it.
Cincinnati, Luke Fickell.
Yeah, I think Cincinnati would get that game.
All right. So we'll stay in that same bracket. Cincy versus Michigan. Dori?
I'm going with Cincinnati.
Scotty?
Wow.
Yeah.
I would go. I would. Well, it would be my Georgia, so I think Georgia would get them in my situation.
Okay. I think either Georgia or Michigan might get them there just
Nope.
because of the defense.
Okay.
But, regardless, we've got either Bama or Notre Dame taking on the Utes. Dori, who do you got?
Man, this is hard. I've
You
got
had
Notre
select
Dame
Notre
beating.
Dame, right? So that was Notre
I know.
Dame.
I've got Notre Dame beating Bama. So Notre Dame and Utah. Man, let's go Pac-12. Represent. I'm going with Utah.
Scotty. Roll the dice, baby. Roll the dice.
I know you like me to roll them, but that blue blood comes through, man. And I just think, they're just a machine, to be honest with you. I'd go Alabama.
So you got Bama in the finals.
Yeah.
Dori's got the Utes.
Yes.
The Utes in the Pac-12. All right.
Utes?
So
Did you say Utes? I said Utes.
what's the Utes?
What's a Utes?
All right. So we got either the Utes or Bama versus who we pick? Who was that? Cincinnati?
Michigan.
Cincinnati and Michigan.
Yeah.
All right, Dori.
My final
who's
is
your
going to be
champion?
Cincinnati versus Utah.
And the champion is? This is for fun.
Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell. Raise that trophy, Luke Fickell. Raise that trophy.
The shot heard around the world. The Dori taking the Bearcats to
All the
win
way.
their national title. Scott?
Alabama versus Michigan, I would have to go Alabama, even though I think
So
Michigan
boring.
would give them a tough game. But I think, unfortunately, the Blue Bloods would come out. I know that's easy for me to do because it's easy because it's Alabama, but it'd be interesting.
Dude,
I
so
love
it.
boring. So boring.
Dori's
I
on
know.
fire.
I know I need to go to the Raquel School of Colors and all that, but that coaching hat comes on. I start thinking so.
Any given Saturday, I'm telling you.
Well,
Yeah,
it might be on a Monday, but hey, I digress. Anyway, let's pick up the
Okay.
pace a little bit. We got a lot of coaching changes.
That was fun.
Oh my God, I don't even know what Scott coaching changes, man. I mean, first off, what do you think about Cristobal going to Miami and leaving Oregon? Good move, bad move. What do you think? And then Dori jump in after that.
Well, I mean, good nor bad, I don't know where that's at. I know you're going to put out a little quote here in a few minutes. I'm more irritated with the way it all went down.
Okay.
And that's irritating me, the whole thing. He's from there. He's played there. He coached there. He knows it. The state of Florida, recruiting wise, is really going to rank, is really going to ratchet up. You got Norvell, Florida State. You got Napier now at Florida, and you got him, and they're all grinders, and they like to recruit. And we all know that everybody else in the country goes down to Florida. So from that standpoint, the good part is that it's going to help and make the relevant. And as we've said before on this podcast, it's good when the Miamis and the Texases and those programs are playing well and they're in it, and it makes it good for college football. So from that standpoint, I'm happy about that part. So hopefully he'll turn them around.
Well, there's something that's speaking volumes to me right now about this coaching hire. I think only one person is going with him, with Cristobal, and that's the that's the weight coach. No one else on Cristobal's staff is going with him. Whether that's his choice or not, it's that's interesting to me. That's really interesting to me, and it may speak volumes about Cristobal. I'm just throwing it out there. I think Manny Diaz got a short. He got a raw end of the deal. I think that he was not treated well. I think this thing, but I think that Manny Diaz not being there was the worst kept secret of all the coaching changes.
Let me jump in here. I want to read you a statement from Manny Diaz. Obviously, he thanked the university and thanked the families and the talent and the kids and everything else. But his first line here says, "I am disappointed in the university's decision and the manner in which this played out over the last few weeks. The uncertainty impacted our team, our staff, and their families. These are real people that gave everything to this program. For them, I hurt." Scott, what are your thoughts when you hear something like that?
Well, people know I'm involved with, heavily with a, stepson who's in college football. So it hurts from that perspective for me, because I know that 10 other coaches, when a head coach makes a move, 10 other people are affected by that, and their families and things like that. The impact is just not to the one guy. The one guy usually walks out with a couple bucks in his pocket and he moves on. It's just impactful. It really does do things. And I just don't know if I like the trend, what we're doing in this part of the world with coaching. I just don't. I think, like Dori said, she mentioned, and you mentioned, it's the worst kept secret. It's been, everybody knew, and I thought that he'd done a pretty good job since it kind of came out. He won some games and he was doing good. I don't think he was embarrassing the program. They weren't getting blown out every week. And, it saddens me that we can just make those changes so quickly. And we all know one thing: January 10th will come this year. On January 11th, they'll already have a hot for next year, and it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And we're going to have guys that have only been in a program for 2 to 3 years, and they're already going to be on the hot seat, and the fire is going to start stoking. And it's really sad to me that we've done this. And I think we need to really step back and do these things. And I honestly, this is my personal position, I think that a lot of these ADs need to be tied in to this whole deal. You make a bad choice, then you're going to, and we're gonna clean the whole house, and we're gonna figure out and make this thing right. So I think the ADs need to, it's easy to throw 90, 100 million 10-year contracts at coaches. Well, no kidding. Who wouldn't take those deals? And I think that could come back and bite some people in the rear if this doesn't go right for some of these programs too. So again, it's a little bit near and dear to my heart, so it hurts me a little bit, but I hope Coach Diaz and his staff can find something. And to Dori's point, and I think it's also pretty clear what happened at Notre Dame. Nobody from the Notre Dame staff went down to LSU with Kelly. So there's some things that I think people need to really look at when they criticize. So, Dori?
Well, you talk about it being near and dear, and I know your stepson Joe is in this business, and he's been one of the lucky ones to have made decisions before. It's almost as if he was reading tea leaves with the moves that he made and how he aligned himself with the right people and did what was necessary and did a fabulous job. His resume speaks for itself. But sometimes when you're not in control of those decisions being made for you, and you end up on the short end of the stick, not because you didn't have a team that was rated #1 in the nation, but because a new athletic director comes in and decides to do what? Go in another direction. I've yet to see an AD at the D1 level go in another direction when the program was winning. I've yet to see that happen. Even if you're the new AD, if the programs are winning, then the coaches are staying. Unless they get huge contracts to leave Lincoln Riley, right? So tie an AD to it, sure, absolutely, absolutely. But when you do that, then you give all the power to the presidents of the universities who know not much about football. So I think, although I'd like to see ADs tied to it with responsibility for winning, I think if you do that, then you really are starting at below bottom level with your athletic departments, because presidents of universities don't understand how an athletic department works. That's why they hire people to run their athletic department.
You know, I don't know if there's been a more exciting hiring, right, than what we've seen in the last week. It's been a buzz throughout all of college football, and he hasn't coached in one game yet. And the hiring of Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame,
Yeah.
where the players came out and spoke on his behalf. The fact that Brian Kelly lost both of his coordinators because they did not follow him. And I'm not going to get into Brian Kelly in this show at this point, but this is about Marcus Freeman. Scott, you know, when was the last time that we see a young coach at a big university with this, for lack of a better word, this love affair that has happened and this kind of joy that's coming out of South Bend, that have only hired their second, you know, ever Black coach in this, at this university? I mean, it's something that's is absolutely remarkable. What are your thoughts about what has transpired in the last week at South Bend?
Well, I mean, you're giving the keys to the car to a young man, a coach in a place like Notre Dame. It's really shows who he is as a person. It's, you know, when he did his press conference, he was great. He did, you know, thanked Coach Tressel, but he really, you know, gave a lot of, you know, the kudos to Coach Fickle, being from underneath him and learning from him and things like that. And it, you know, and again, I'm not a shot at Coach Tedford, but I like today, I mean, Tedford gets named the head coach of Fresno State. I mean, I think Fresno's a great example of where, like, the new Husky coach DeBoer is, where you can learn and get your teeth and figure out how to be a head coach and all that. And we go back with an older coach, and we're not, I mean, we need to develop younger coaches, good coaches down the road. They're going to make these things so they can have the keys to the car to a bigger program. And so I really commend Notre Dame for doing what they did. I think they were swift and they're quick and they know how the recruiting works, and they have a pretty good class coming in next year. And I thought it was good. And I think the kids and the reaction that they showed on Twitter, where, you know, the strength coach announces them, and that you could see the reaction from the kids. And, without getting on the Coach Kelly show and making that bad, everybody kind of knows how he coaches. And I think they were relieved and think they have a coach's coach. And I think they're really happy about it. And I think they'll play inspired football. I even heard that Hamilton, the great safety, is thinking about coming back and not entering the draft because he really wants to play for Freeman. So I think that's really shows who he is as a person. Dori?
Well, he does come to the table without having been a head coach. However, when you look at who he learned from on how to build and have a successful program, and understands that without the player buy-in and without parent buy-in, you don't have a program. Because I think he learned from the best. I really do. And I think he learned from someone that has integrity, that knows how to do it right, and knows how to build a program right. And that's Luke Fickell. And every time Luke Fickell was interviewed, when Marcus Freeman was on the staff, Marcus Freeman was the first coach he mentioned and thanked as to why Cincinnati continued to have this successful program and was building this successful program. So that to me is a better endorsement than you could get from any other head coach in the country. Any other head coach in the country. And now I'm rooting for Notre Dame. And that's hard for me to say.
Hey, listen, real quick, Dori, how much credit do we give the Notre Dame AD Jack Schwarbrick? I mean, he's really kind of putting himself out there, right? I mean, he could have gone the safer route. He could have interviewed different people. He could have brought in someone with more experience. I mean, this is a 67-year-old man at this, at this school, and he went with this young gun, this young kid, 35-year-old. Yeah. That's new to the program. This is not someone that's been with the program for 10 years. He's brand new.
No. Yeah.
I mean, what kind of credit or what are your thoughts on specifically Jack Schwarbrick?
Well, I think what he did is he listened with his eyes. He listened with his eyes and he said, okay. And he saw the impact that a new coach had on a program and changed the tone of the Notre Dame program. Brian Kelly did not change the tone of this program. Brian Kelly's been on the hot seat at Notre Dame. Okay.
Yes.
So the tone of this team changed with one hire. And that was Marcus Freeman as the defensive coordinator. So I think that speaks volumes. And good for you, dude. Good for you. Listen with your eyes.
Scott, I got a question for you. I mean, as part of our student athletes advocate tidbit, new coaches, college coaches coming through, what are some of the ways that, these coaches should, act and some of the things that Marcus Freeman has already displayed?
Well, I think it's important for young kids to understand that when, I've noticed this week on Twitter, Rainier Beach has had Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Utah through their school. And Coach Sampson does a great job. And obviously they have a few talented athletes there. Yep. But my point to student athletes is, man, be attentive, pay attention, show up right, look the coach in the eye, shake their hands, stand up, sit down when they do the things that are important. These coaches are offering maybe a chance at a $250,000 scholarship. I mean, they're going to ask the janitor, they're going to ask the gal in the lunchroom how you act and things like that. And this
check
is
your social media also.
Absolutely.
Careful with your social media.
Such an important thing. And, without, developing too many stories, I know of a lot of situations where kids are disrespectful, don't pay attention. They're looking down at their phone, not making eye contact. You've got to do these things because it's a difference maker. They look at the same kid, same size, same this, same that. One was looking at his phone. The other one was looking me in the eyes. Who do you think they're going to go with? They're going to go with the one looking in the eyes because that's the one. Ask questions. Know something about the school that's coming in to recruit you. Not just, hey, what's up, coach? Give them a little, love pump and walk away. And, guys go, that guy didn't look too interested. And you got to show the point. And that's for all sports. That's just not for football, but it's all sports. You have to act engaged that you want to be here and what you want to do. And so I just think it's important for kids to really realize that. I mean, I know in the life that we live, that little thing called the phone gets distracted in our lives. Put the phone away. Don't take it in with you. Focus in on the coach and do what you need to do.
We only have a few more minutes here. I mean, we've got so much to discuss and so many incoming coaching carousels, and we'll have plenty of stuff. We're going to do another show next week. We've got playoffs. We got so many things to get into. Maybe we'll have an answer with Oregon, so we could talk some more Pac-12. So we've got plenty of things to get into, and we'll kind of save that in for another show. Heisman's this weekend. Dori, we'll start with you. Any surprises, and who do you think is going to win?
I love that Aiden Hutchinson is in the mix, and man, don't be surprised if he walks away with the trophy, people, because I don't really think there's a front runner. I do not think there's a front runner. From the four that were talked about at the beginning of the season, not one of them is still in it. And so there's been a lot of changes. Man, let's go Aiden Hutchinson. Let's do this.
Scott, what are your thoughts on the Heisman weekend here?
Well, I'm just happy, to be honest, to Dori's point. I don't think Mr. Hutchinson's going to win it, but unfortunately, the world that we live in, it's offense wins and defense wins championships, but offense is the show. But the point is, I like the fact that they are bringing a defensive player to the Heisman. I think that's important that we do that, because it's supposed to be about the best football player in the country. That's what the award is for.
It's about who's the best player for, like, who has raised the level for their team, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's not So
well,
I don't know.
I'd even argue that I don't like when we vote. I mean, I think they vote way too early and things like that. I think you need to play the championship weekends. I think you need to even play your bowl games and do that at the end of the season, really the impact and things like that. I mean, I think, unfortunately, we'll see in the next couple of weeks how many kids are going to opt out of bowl games and not play. If it's not in the playoff, they're not playing the Rose Bowl. So again, I think that should be all parts of the actual award. And so the way the college football works. I mean, look at the two that Stroud and Bryce Young,
CJ Stroud. Yep.
Both redshirt freshmen. I mean, it's crazy. Usually the senior from whatever school is it to win the Heisman. It's now these young phenoms they're at the award thing. So it goes to show you that it's what you do, and you don't have to be what your age is. So it's impressive. I'm just happy, like I said, there's a defensive guy there, that we're going to do this, and we're going to make it seem like it's a true award about the best player in the country.
And he came back for his senior season. He could have gone to the NFL last year, but he committed to his team, and he committed to his coach, and he committed to what he knows, like who he is as a young man. And so I think that pays dividends.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to all the young men that are going to be there for this weekend. Scott mentioned that maybe this award show should be a little bit later in the year. It's a valid point. For me, there's too many damn kids out there not to be invited. Why are we only taking 4? Why are we not celebrating more kids? Why isn't a Will Anderson Jr. there? Why isn't the running back from Michigan State there that we talked about all damn year? Why are we only bringing 4, right? Bring 10 kids, bring 12 kids, bring their families to New York, celebrate the sport, celebrate the kids. That's my complaint with the Heisman. I love the Heisman. I love what they do, but there are too many good players out there that do too much for their teams, that are leaders on and off the field, and they don't get a chance to show up in their cool ass outfits and have their families sit with them and hug them and love them and celebrate with them, whether they win or not. The fact that they could be at one of the biggest stages in college football. And that's what I would like to see change. And the fact, and we'll go back to the playoffs real quick. Here we go, right? Bryce Young, he's in. Kenny Pickett, not in the playoffs. CJ Stroud, not in the playoffs. Aiden Hutchinson is there. So 2 out of the 4 players that we recognize as the top players in the country in the sport are not represented in the playoffs. So my 2 complaints with the Heisman and the playoff system, it needs to change. I want to see more kids celebrated and being invited to New York with their families. Anyway.
And a way to do that is expand the playoffs so that there's even more exposure for all those players that are putting it out there every single Saturday and doing what they need to do to be successful. Agreed with you 100%, Will Sanchez.
122nd meeting, Army versus Navy. It's an incredible weekend. It is the only show in town. They will be playing for the 121st time in this rivalry, and Navy holds a 61-53 and 7 advantage, but Army, with their number 2 rushing attack in the country and top 20 in offense and defense, may have their way, but you never know. Pride is something that's special between these 2 teams. So we'll look forward to that. Dori, Scott, we have a lot of things to talk about in the next couple of weeks. So we'll do it again. And I appreciate you guys taking some time.
Thanks, Will. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's always great. This was I love doing this with you guys. So let's go. Let's do
Adios.
it.